Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is featuring some products from Concord and Ninth. I used the Birdhouse Blossoms stamps, dies, and embossing folder. This is an edited replay. I had gone live on Black Friday and I did basically like an audience choose it, and this is the one that you guys chose. And I was super excited because honestly, I bought this set back in the beginning of the year. I don't know if it was like February, March, April, somewhere in there. And it's just been sitting here looking at me and I haven't had an opportunity to use it. So I was thrilled to be able to do that. I chose to cut all of my pieces parts out of white cardstock because I enjoy coloring them. But these look just as beautiful if you cut them out of colored cardstock. They have a lot of examples over on their website. And at the time that I was doing this, they were having their Black Friday sale, but I will say they were not having a sale when I bought it. I bought the bundle, which they do offer a discount with their bundle. So I was able to get all three of the products for a discounted rate, which works really well for my budget, honestly. So because I chose to color all of my die cuts, this was a very long live. I think we were together for almost 3 hours, and even then I wasn't able to completely finish the card. So I did just want to mention the coloring is in here. It is sped up a little bit because I wanted to talk a lot about like the balance of a card design, and when we're making our own arrangements and things, the different things that we could look at to create balance. And so I left that portion, like the arranging part, in, which I don't always. And so because of that, I needed to kind of trim the fat elsewhere. With the 3D embossing folder, which honestly, I was like, am I really going to even be this impressed by this? And pleasantly surprised, I totally was. So you die cut all of your pieces first, and then you lay them into your embossing folder. Now, I did not secure mine with tape, but on their website, it does recommend that you do that. So I didn't tape them down individually. I just closed the lid and then I taped the actual folder so that they weren't like moving around in there. But it probably is smarter to tape down the actual paper inside the folder, because then it won't shift. So look at all this fun detail that I was able to get with the embossing folder, like the wood grain and the little like divot for the entrance. Now they do have dies in this die set for you to do like the little hole for the entrance of the birdhouse and the peg like perch, but I did not use those. So in order to color these ones up really quickly, I just used an ink blending brush and my distress inks. I chose to do brushed corduroy all over all of them. And then I am going to add a little bit more shading. I can't remember. I'll have to wait till it comes on the screen. I think maybe I used ground espresso, but I'm not 100% sure. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So I just put this over and I'm being very light-handed. That way it just really kind of grabs onto that wood grain look there. I will be adding further shading with my markers when we get there. So normally I would bring up the kind of like layering guide or the guidelines on my laptop, but since I was doing a live, I actually just brought them up on my phone, so you can kind of see me there looking to see how they all lay out. Originally, I cut too many pieces, like I cut more pieces for the cardinal, thinking that they went on the little chickadee, but then I had like too many cardinal pieces, so those pieces up there in the kind of like the top right that you see, those are extra. Those are extra little guys that I didn't need. So now onto the coloring. These are die cut, but they also have like the embossing, which we love. We love a detail. And so I'm doing this bird, I'm coloring him as a cardinal. So I started with my reds. So knowing that I was doing the the cardinals are red. So right there, that already picks one of my colors. We're going to talk about how that plays into balance here in just a little bit. And so I am just going through, working out to my lightest color. I am adding a little bit more darkness kind of in between each of the feathers to help really give it a textured look. I felt like the largest area of his feathers on the outside there did get, like, the detail got a little bit lost, but there's no rule about going back in and doing it a second time. So if you do your coloring and you feel like maybe you could still get some more detail, or maybe your darker colors got a little bit lost, don't sweat it. Just see, I'm looking at it and I'm like, nope, I want this to be a little bit darker. I want these to be a little bit more defined. And so I'm just going back in and adding that darker midtone and then blending that out with some more of the lighter midtone. And now we can see a lot more of that sectioning. So there's no rule against doing it a second time. So here with the little chickadee, I was like, I don't know what color little chickadees are supposed to be. So I looked up the little chickadee and I wanted to color, these birds are chunky. Okay, they are chonkers. These birds eat 2 dinners, 2 breakfasts, just like my Emma girl. And she also she's a big girl. But they're adorable. I love them. I think they're so cute. I think Emma's cute too. But so I'm trying to like work with all of the pieces to get the look that I'm going for of that chickadee with kind of like the black on the head and then the black underneath. What do we call that? His breast area. I call it a gullet. Like right underneath his chin, you know what I'm saying. But then the rest of him is white. So I'm using my cool grays to get that white feathers. And then I'm going to use warm grays because their bellies are almost like a beigeish color. I'm going to use warm grays underneath that. And so here, when I start messing around with this, you want to do your lighter colors first, by the way, before you bring in the black. Otherwise, you're going to pick up the black and drag it right through your white. And I wasn't loving the way that it was lining up. So you'll see as I'm going through and doing my coloring and adding that black that I am adjusting. And I knew that I would make the final adjustment once I had everything glued together, that it would be easier to see that way. So once I get it all together, like you see me like putting it back in, checking it, double checking it, triple checking it, and I just was not like in the flow of the thing. So I'm going to alter it as we move along. So let's talk about the balance. So we knew that the red, because the cardinals are red, so already we have our color. So what is a color that looks nice with a red? Well, automatically, if we are thinking about colors that look nice to each other, we have complementary colors. And I didn't go exactly with a complement. Like I went with a blue green instead of a green green. But that was what I was thinking. So then the other thing that also, like colors that look nice together, are analogous colors. And analogous colors are colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. So we have the red, and then what's next to it on the color wheel is orange or a red violet, aka pink. And I was like, okay, so we could do the pink, we could do the red. Pink's complementary color is a yellow green. And then brown is a neutral. So looking at the colors that I'm choosing, I'm already trying to start off my card design with a good balance of color, because too many colors can be visually overwhelming. And when we don't want to overwhelm your recipient. You don't want your design to look so busy that there's no place to rest the eye, or they don't understand how to lead the eye around the design. So here I did use a little bit of orange, but just for their little beaks. So nothing that's really too noticeable, I guess. And I even tried to keep that more on the side of like the same kind of color family of the reds. Like they're not too far off from each other, so one isn't detracting from the other. Here for the cardinal's face, I was a little too light-handed with my blacks, and so I did have to go back in and make that a little darker. Again, if you're not happy with the way something's looking, go back in, try a different color combination. If you feel like it needs to be lighter, go in with your lightest color and see if you can bleach the darker color out, or go in with a colorless blender and see what you can remove. So here now I'm building this little chickadee, and see how disconnected that like piece is in the front from the rest of it. So I am going to swoop it. I'm going to swoop it so that all becomes one piece together, instead of looking like a separate piece. Is this realistic? Meh, maybe not so much. But does it look better on this particular chonker little chickadee? Yes, it does. Our little chubby chickadee looks much better that way. So I mentioned earlier that this had like the little circle and the perch. I chose to just color mine because I knew that I was going to be adding more shading and stuff with my markers. So this just made sense to me to do it this way. So now for the little roof, I am going to just kind of lay these down in place, hold them, and then I'm going to mark where that shadow should be. And I'm going to do this for both of the roof pieces and the bottom kind of baseboard perch section. That one I didn't really feel like I needed to hold it up there, honestly, because it was just a straight line across. And then here, I'm not pushing the marker in. I'm just kind of dragging it along. And then I'll blend that out with the next color. This is the lightest color, and again, I'm just going all over it. So you'll see that the wood grain that we originally had embossed is much lighter, like where it's sank down in there, and that's great because then it gives us a really good texture. So the other thing when we talk about balance is not just how balanced the color is, but also different kind of, they're called rules, but they're not really. Like, you don't have to follow them. They're just helpful, especially if you're just starting. So one of the quote unquote rules for color is not just working with complementary colors and things like that, but it's also how much of it. So typically for a good balance, look at those birds, they're so stinking cute. For a good balance, you want to pick one color that's going to be kind of like your dominant color, or in this particular rule, your gallon, pint, quart. So your gallon is going to be one color that you choose to showcase the most. In our case, it probably could be argued that my gallon could either be red or pink. Honestly, it could be either or. But so you have a gallon, and then you have a quart, which is like a medium amount. So in this design, I would say probably the gallon is the pink, because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, because I went with the red on the paper. But anyway, so let's say the gallon is the pink, the pint would be the red. And then your quart would be the red, and then your pints are going to be your accent colors. So we're not going to have a ton of those. That's going to be like our green, our blue-green here that you see me coloring, that are just kind of tucked in, that really help enhance the design, but we don't necessarily see a ton of it. And then, of course, neutrals don't count. So our browns, our grays, our blacks, our whites, those don't necessarily count because you can use those. And I personally think blue is a neutral, even though design-wise, they say that is not true. Navy blue, I will put on anything, really, honestly. So these, I really like these. So these little, what are they, sticks? These little branches here, they will layer on top of that leaf to be like a vein. You can also use them here for the berries, or you can use them for the flowery ones up top to create like cotton, which I love. I think that's so smart to have it have multiple uses. And then I colored my berries with the red, the same reds that I did the cardinal with, but I did them in 2 different colors. So I used 3 for each one. One I used the dark mid-tone and the light mid-tone, and then I used the dark mid-tone, light mid-tone, and highlight color. For the flowers, I'm going to do the same thing. These kind of tulipy kind of ones, I am doing a little bit darker, whereas the ones that look, they're smaller and have like the smaller petals, I did not go as dark. Still in the same like pinkish, purplish family, but much lighter. So anywho, so that is another design rule that you can follow, the gallon, pint, quart. Again, these are not hard and fast rules. These are just tools that you can use if you are struggling with a design, or if maybe something feels off, then you can look at it and be like, okay, well, what if I swapped out this color or that color or whatever? I'm also a big fan of repeating colors. So like here, rather than try to find a different color for the center of my flowers, like bringing in a yellow or something like that, I just chose to do it like a light coral, which is also in the red berries, and those will all work together. So now now that the coloring's done, we're gonna slow down and we're gonna start to look at the balance. One of the ways that you can arrange in a balance is called symmetrical. So you can see each of these leaves is the same on either side. So that symmetrical means they match. They're exactly the same on either side. And that is one way that you can design your bouquets or your card or whatever, and that will look nice together, is this creating the symmetry. Another way that you can do it is called radial or circular. So you have a focal point in the middle, and then you have all of these supporting actors that radiate around your focal point. But in that radial, typically they are evenly spaced. So it looks, think of like a snowflake. A snowflake would be like a radial design. And then you have asymmetrical, which is, maybe you have a little bit of a larger here and like two smallers on the other side to counterbalance that. What I find to be most helpful for me is what we call a visual triangle. So your brain likes to work in odd pairings, and it likes to work in odd pairings because if it's even, then your brain tries to pair them to make like 2, 4, 6, 8. Your brain likes that a lot. Also, what I'm doing here is like, don't be afraid to cut these apart. If something isn't working for you, like it's just paper, cut it and use what works for you. So when you're working in a visual triangle, so you can see as I'm laying these down, I have 2 of those tulip flowers, 1, 2, and then I'm going to put the third in the bottom right, which is going to create a triangle. Same thing with my my blue-green leaves. I have 2 at the top, 1, 2, and then I'm going to put 1 down in the bottom left, and that's going to help create that triangle. So here I was like, I should just glue these things so that way I don't have to chase them all over my desk. And then I just did the little sign with a little heart, and then I'm going to add some shading underneath that sign so that way it looks like it's sticking out from the birdhouse. You may have noticed from the little giggle that you just heard that I am not alone in the craft room today. I am not alone in the craft room today. I have my little jelly bean in here with me, and she is being very, very patient and doing such a good job and letting mommy do her voiceover while she has a little snack in her chair. And I did tell her that she could come say goodbye at the end of the video. So if you'd like to hear that, stay tuned. All right, now back to what we're doing. So here, I don't have all my parts glued together, and that's my own fault. I should have glued them together before I started building out my design, and it would have made it much easier, but I did not. I built out the design first, and now I have to kind of like slide them out so that I can glue them and then slide them back in to where I want them to live. The interruptions are getting more frequent. The natives are getting restless. So anywho, I'm just gluing these together as, like just kind of working around so that way I can glue them together and then I can lay them back where I would like them to go. Again, the berries are 2 different colors. I tried to be a bit conscientious about like mixing up different ones to be with each other, but like even now I can see that top right one where I have like the light one on top, a light one on bottom, 2 darks in the middles. That's not how I glued it. And then also because I think it's super important to leave in the things that don't work out. That is why this video is just like a smidge longer, because I left that part in. I'm going to make a mistake and it's going to throw off the balance of my card, and I want you to see it because it's important. That's how we learn. So here I've taped down my card. I'm using my press and seal. I normally would use a bone folder to burnish it to my glass mat here, but I couldn't find it. So I just had to use my fingers. We just got to do what we got to do to make it through, y'all. It's all about survival. So here I'm just pressing those parts onto the press and seal, and then I'm going to carefully lift it up. If I notice as I'm lifting that some of my die cuts are not coming with it, then I'm going to just make sure that I press them back down. This is called the hinge method, and I have another video on that. I learned this from my good friend Dawn Wolslagel. She was the first person I saw do it, and it's brilliant when if you do it. Sometimes I don't. But basically, you just open the door, you add adhesive to the very base layers, and then once you have your adhesive down there, then you close the door again, and then you push down your die cuts so that they adhere. I did notice in the live that I was not waiting long enough. Like you have to give the glue a minute to set. Otherwise it starts picking back up, which is what you see happening there. So I did pick it back up too soon. Just give it a second to sit there. Every once in a while you might have one like this one that doesn't pick up, because there's just not enough real estate for it to stick to the press and seal. I don't even sweat those. I glue what I can, and then I'll just tuck that back in before I do the actual birdhouse. So I was, like I said, this was during a live that I was doing this. And so I was just going through, the motions and gluing everything down. But at some point or another, and I'm not sure exactly when it happened, I was like, I would really like to have matted this card. Meaning like just trimmed it down a little bit and put it on a colored card base so that it had just like a little frame, which if you've been here, is not a shock to you. So once I have everything like glued down, I decide that I'm going to pop up my birdhouse. You can do the foam tape while it is still on the press and seal, but because I had already glued my birds and my sign down to the house, I didn't really need to leave it attached to the press and seal. And then here, I'm just laying it there while I use my tweezers to get my little berries back into place. And so we have these visual triangles, the, purple in the, like kind of middle right, top left, bottom right, the berries with the cardinal and the berries in the bottom left. So that's all working together. We're creating this balance. And then my intention is to put this sending warm wishes sign down there. So now the live is over. I'm finishing up the card. Gonna finish up the card. And so I am doing my shimmer marker and adding my white highlights. I'm also going to use these to kind of like highlight the little feathers on the bird. And I'm going to put down my sentiment, which is again in the center. This is my center focal point with my 2 little chunky monkey birds, who I adore. I think they're so cute. And then I'm going to put that right underneath there, sending warm wishes, which I think is great because we've taken a spring release set, and now we're using it very easily for the holidays. And here's where I'm like, oh, no, I had to put in some foam tape because it was hanging over the edge. and it was not well supported. So I just kind of stuck some foam tape up underneath there and made sure it was hidden with my tweezers. Here's where I decide I want to frame it, okay? So I trim off some from the top, which is fine. And I'm not trimming off very much because I don't need a huge border. And then I'm like, okay, I have a little bit of room on the left-hand side. I'm going to trim it from there. And then watch what happens, okay? All of a sudden, my balance is not there. It's not there. Like looking at it, my card is now too far over to the left, and you can see behind the cardinal's tail, we have this gaping white space. So here I'm messing around with the colors. I ended up going with Brickyard, which is one of their 2025 colors. But now I have this problem of I have this gaping hole in my design because I've trimmed off the area that helped counterbalance it. So I did cut some more berries and some more branches. I'm also, that leaf right there that I'm tucking this under, I did kind of pry him up a little bit so that I could move him down and fill in this area a little nicer. So when you change something, like it really does affect your balance and the way that the card design looks. Because once we get these berries back in here, then the balance is back on, and because those red berries connect to that red bird, it reads as one red point. So we still have that visual triangle going on, but now we have a much more balanced design. So then I just added some adhesive. I put it on my my Brickyard cardstock, which matched really nicely, honestly. And then that's it. That's the whole card. So, as I said, I would let Jelly Bean come over and say goodbye. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I appreciate your time. And then I will let her come over and say hello and goodbye. Okay, now it's going. So you can say
hi.
And did you want to also tell them something else? Don't put your mouth on it. Don't put your mouth on it.
That I like a potty mouth.
You do, yeah. Is that what you wanted to tell them?
Yeah.
Did you also want to tell them bye?
Bye.
Good job. Okay.
Hello.
Okay.
I miss my daddy.
Okay, let's go see Daddy. He's downstairs. Okay.